there seems to be a certain level of anxiety among Cowboys fans. And I really can't blame you, right? Because also, if you follow me on Twitter, you saw that earlier this week, yesterday. One of the things I said was when I learned that we lost Chauncey, it made me not want to hear shit else about this team for the rest of the week. I was like, fuck it. I don't care what they do. They can't fix this. They cannot make this right with me. And that is still the case. But I will say that things like getting Cooper Kupp, getting Jair Alexander, if he ever actually does become available, would go a long way in getting back in my good graces. Honestly, I'm sure I'll get over it eventually. I heard someone say, I can't remember where I heard it, but someone made the very good point that the Giants might be a good situation for Chauncey, that they might be more consistent in terms of his assignments, and it might be a place where he can flourish. Okay, cool. I can see that. And if the Cowboys weren't going to do that, because let's be real, they haven't in the past, then maybe this is the best thing for him. And maybe even if the Cowboys were going to try to meet that $6.5 million per year, he still would not have wanted to stay with an organization that could not put him in the best position consistently. I dig that. Just for me, when it comes to Chauncey, I don't think we had seen the best from him yet. I think he was still developing. I think he was still making improvements. I think his best football is ahead of him. And I wanted to see him get there as a Dallas Cowboy. I wanted him and Osa to remain teammates. Like, those are two of my favorite players on defense. And I'm super excited about Osa getting extended. Like, that was very good news. But before it actually happened, it never even crossed my mind that Chauncey might not be a Cowboy in 2025. The hell. But here we are. And J-Lew was a little bit easier to understand. I think he deserves what he's getting paid from the Jaguars. And I don't think the Cowboys are ever going to match it. But J-Lew is a special player. Like, sometimes people use the phrase chip on their shoulder to describe a player that approaches the game like they have something to prove. It was deeper than that with J-Lew. Like, I can see you applying that phrase to him, but it wasn't just that he had something to prove, like, which he did. He came into the league and there was so much talk about, oh, he's undersized, yada, yada, yada. And so he did have some things to prove. But the way he approached the game, in terms of his attitude, in terms of the intensity of his play, in terms of being a ball hawk before Trayvon Diggs, even once Trayvon Diggs came into the picture, the way he seemed to impact the locker room, that wasn't just, I have something to prove, so I'm going to show up and be boisterous and loud and have this noticeable attitude. That was a certain type of competitor. That was someone who seems to approach life with a certain philosophy that also happened to apply to football. And there's a difference. There are some people that you'll see that will be a certain way off the field, but then they feel the need to turn it on in order to be successful at the game. But then there are some people who are like, no, that's who they are through and through. And it just so happens that attitude lends itself to football. And the reason why I like that is because those people inspire you in a different way than someone who just turns it on the field. Those are the type of people who remind you that even when you're dealing with success, even when you're experienced with success, life can throw things at you that require you to be thick-skinned, that require you to be tough, that require you to approach it with a certain attitude that says, this situation isn't going to beat me, whether it's on or off the field. I just thought he was a dope person, good player, dope person. And any organization is lucky to have him. So shout out to him. Happy for both of them. Sorry, I won't see them with the Cowboys anymore. Who else are y'all asking about here? Chris Johnson says they screwed Chauncey by moving him inside. Once they finally moved him back to DE, he flashed, and now he's gone. Yeah, I can't argue with you there. one thing I will say is that I'm proud of how Chauncey handled that. Um, so for most of the season, I don't even remember if it was most of the season, at least part of the season, when I was on Girls Talk, Boys Talk, we had locker room access. And one thing that I remember about Chauncey was that he was always upbeat. No matter like whether they had just experienced a loss or even if everybody in the locker room was, just showing signs of them having a tough practice, every time I walked past him and talked to him and asked him how he was doing, he would just smile and say he was blessed. He'd be like, I'm blessed to be here. Like, I'm happy to be here. I'm blessed to be here. I feel blessed. Like every time I talked to him, he used the word blessed. And so I get what fans are saying when they're like, oh yeah, the Cowboys screwed Chauncey, yada, yada, yada. If he looked at it that way, that was something that was not often expressed. That was something that he did not lead with in terms of how he approached his practice and how he approached his play. He made the best of the situation. He he literally did everything he could to make that work. And even though it wasn't the best thing for him in terms of showing what he was capable of, what he could do, um, to me, and I'm a person who, the more you listen to me, you'll see that the intangibles to me matter. A player's characteristics to me matter just as much as their abilities. And to see a player like that just keep giving it their all, keep trying, keep doing the best that they possibly could. You never heard him in the press complaining. Um, that was a big deal to me. I like that about him. And so to me, that was kind of a win for him. To me, that was kind of a way that even though he, like, nobody would be like, oh, they should move him there permanently, right? I never heard anybody say that. But to me, it was a way that he showed, like, yeah, give me a little bit of time. Maybe I could do this. It's not my natural position. It's not something that comes easily to me, but I have the work ethic necessary to figure it out. Um, I can be effective enough. This is what my team is requiring of me. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And that is more than a lot of players would do in that situation. There are legit some people who would half-ass it and then blame it on the team for putting them there in the first place. But you could tell he gave it his all. You could tell that he did his best to support the team and thrive in a position that was never supposed to be his. So I, yeah, I still look at everything he did there as a positive, so to speak. Uh, Keystone said, I guess Chris, I guess we don't like our guys. You know what's funny about that? That is actually a conversation that came up in one of the Twitter spaces that I was in. So your guy Nick's, if y'all don't follow him, if you're watching them and if you're watching this echo in my ear, one day I'm gonna have producers and I won't have to listen to an echo in my fucking ear that fucks me up when I'm talking. But your guy Nick's, if you are watching this and you don't already follow him, you should. And you should hop in the Twitter spaces, even if you're just listening. But there was a space, I don't remember if it was yesterday's or today's, but we actually talked about that whole idea of the Cowboys being kind of known for saying, oh, we like our guys and not really showing it. Um, Sometimes that's something that people just say, I think, because let's be real, with as much cap space has been cleared, could they not have given Chauncey 6.5 million? Could they not have given him 6.5 million and found someone to take the position that he was subbing for and let him play where he's supposed to play? I feel like there are ways that they could have worked things out. And for whatever reason, they didn't. So it's kind of like a lot of people when they say that they like you or that y'all are friends or that y'all are cool, it's conditional. I don't think it was ever unconditional. Um, they just never told us the conditions. I don't think they told a lot of the players the conditions. So yeah, they like their guys. They just don't like their guys unconditionally. So do with that realization what you will. I think that's something that a lot of Cowboys fans are going to have to come to terms with, is that, sometimes we try to take what we hear the Joneses say and take what we see the organization do, and we try to reconcile it. And I think at some point we just have to come to the conclusion, hey, I've made this realization. We can see what it is. It's too much of a pattern for us to ignore it. And we have to do with that realization what we will. If that makes you mad, be mad. If that makes you not want to be a fan, don't be a fan. If that makes you be a little bit less optimistic, maybe even pessimistic, go with it. But just don't be in denial. Don't be in denial, because while we don't impact the decisions that the Cowboys make, uh, we do often engage with each other in a lot of conversations about the decisions that they make. Um, and sometimes the narrative that we create as fans when we're engaging in these conversations, it gets picked up by media outlets. It gets quoted by media personalities, right? So I think as fans, we do have a certain level of responsibility to try to handle these conversations as responsibly as possible, as accurately as possible. So when it comes to things like the realization that the Cowboys may not like their guys the way we thought they liked their guys, hey, hold on to that. Handle it responsibly. Don't forget it. So the next time they talk about somebody they like, hey, take that with a grain of salt. Next time we think that there's a player who deserves to be a Cowboy for life and they should do whatever they need to do within reason to hold on to that player, we should be open to the idea that we might wake up and that player's not a Cowboy anymore. That's literally what happened with Chauncey. I've been working a lot. And so the night the move happened, I went to bed early, and I woke up, and ironically, it was actually Osa's Instagram story, because like I woke up, I did my morning routine, then I went to check my phone. I'm checking notifications. I'm on Instagram, and I see his story, and it was one of the graphics that one of the media outlets had posted about Chauncey leaving, and he said it was bittersweet. And I was like, what? Because the entire story wasn't in the graphic, so I had to Google it after that to see what happened. And I was like, dang, he gone to the Giants. Oh well. I'm gonna miss seeing him on the field with the Cowboys. Let's see who else y'all are talking about in these comments. Anybody? It looks like both Twitter comments and YouTube comments are showing up. If you want to be sure that I get your comment, come over to YouTube. But it does look like some stuff is coming up from Twitter. I think there are two ways to leave comments via Twitter, and one of them does not work. So that's why I always tell people to come over to YouTube. KC says, I like the moves, but I'm definitely pulling for Sam to make his impact. Same, 100%. So with the moves that they are making, it does seem to be affecting the roster in such a way to where Sam should get those opportunities to make an impact. And I hope he does, because that would be good for the team. Sam has shown the potential to have an impact. I think the thing that makes a lot of people worry is the fact that Eberflus literally has a reputation for leading defensive units that are some of the least penalized defensive units in the league. Sam Williams, on the other hand, has a reputation for being one of the most penalized defensive players when you account for the amount of minutes or the number of snaps that he's on the field. He's one of the most penalized defensive players in the league. So people are like, how is that going to work? So right now, I'm going to just trust him to improve and do better. I don't think he wants to get penalties. Sometimes people talk about him as though he just doesn't care. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think he has prioritized in the past. I think he's prioritized certain aspects of his play that, if they aren't kept in check, can lead to him getting penalties. I don't think he doesn't care. I don't think he does it on purpose. I think he just needs a little bit of refinement in those areas, a little bit of adjustment in terms of what's a priority for him and how he approaches the game from a physical aspect. But I think he has the capacity to minimize the penalties and make a big impact. And here's the other thing about Sam. Have y'all ever met a person that when you meet them, you realize there's more to them than their reputation? And I'm not saying his reputation is wrong. I'm not saying that the things that have been reported about him just are inaccurate. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's not all there is. That's all. And I'm pretty sure we've all met somebody like that, or you might be somebody like that, where you know the things that you're known for, your personality, your character, what you're capable of doesn't stop there. I think that's the case with Sam. And I think had he been given the opportunity to show that in 2024, more people would realize that. I crossed paths with him a few times because the Cowboys experience events that Law would go to, Law would invite me many times. And a lot of times Sam would also be there. And so I got to speak to him a few times throughout the season, got to talk to him off camera. And so I'm not going to pretend like I know him so well or like we're close or anything. It's nothing like that. But it's just like you meet a person a few times, you start noticing little things about their personality, about their character, things that they might say to you that you didn't expect them to say. And you're like, you know what? Maybe this person is XYZ, but they're also ABC. And that's kind of how I look at Sam at this point, where it's like, I don't know what the ABC is. It's kind of like if it's nighttime and you look into a lake, you don't really know what's in there, but you know the lake is not a parking lot. Does that make sense? That's a weird ass analogy. Um, but yeah, it's like, yeah, just give him a chance to contribute. And, I think he'll be fine. Um, Casey also says, I think people are sleeping on Mingo making an impact in some way. I think people don't know enough about Mingo to sleep on him. And maybe that's why he's not getting talked about. Because I think about him when I think about, I think about Mingo when I think about people I still have questions about, honestly. So you're not going to see me tweeting a lot about Mingo or posting a lot about him because I don't know what to say. The only thing that I know what to say is the same thing that I've been saying since the Cowboys acquired him, which was, people were wondering what kind of impact he could make. And I was like, yo, physically, he's got all the attributes. He's talented. To me, it looked like his decision-making needed work. Certain things that a wide receiver should get used to when they're trying to make an impact, like when to run out of bounds versus fighting for yards, getting better at run blocking, getting better at knowing when to improvise versus strictly follow a route or strictly follow the way a play was designed, right? We've seen that with CeeDee Lamb a few times where he's had to improvise for the sake of helping Dak or getting himself open in order to get a pass. There have been a couple of passes where it's like, if you listen to Dak in his post-game press conferences, he'll say, oh, I thought that was going out of bounds. I thought that was going to be a throwaway ball, but, CD went up and grabbed it. He made a move. He got it. Things like that are things that I haven't seen in Mingo's game. And things like that are essential when it comes to being considered a good and impactful wide receiver. Things like that come with experience. They come with good coaching. Not just good coaching in terms of play calling, but good coaching in terms of who's your wide receiver coach. What are they teaching you? How are they helping you develop? Right. So in that sense, being in a different place could have an impact, but he hasn't been with the Cowboys long enough. And he hasn't had enough snaps, enough experience, enough opportunities to make some of those adjustments that would have him come off as a smarter player with better instincts. So he needs time. And I think once he has that time, those opportunities, I think once he goes through a full offseason with the Dallas Cowboys, I think he'll put enough on display for Cowboys fans to start talking about him more and have some better things to say. But he needs time. DJ Hundregan said, "We need a splash and we need it now." I'm going to repeat what Nix has been saying about 25 times a day for the past couple days. We need more game than name. So, do we need a big splash? Yes, but we need the right kind of splash. Um, I don't want to see the Cowboys sign a name that is just a name that gets the fan base excited, but then it turns out they don't really fit with any plans that any of the coaches actually have. So yeah, I guess it depends on what you mean by splash, whether or not I agree with you. And I love how this podcast has just turned into a Q&A with you guys. Huge shout out to all of y'all putting comments in the chat because I had no show notes and now I just get to talk with y'all. This is dope. I'm here for it. Chris asks, would you rather Shanty or T-Mac with the 12th pick? Let me get back to you on that. My brain has not even been on the draft the past couple days. Let me get back to you on that. Would Randy Gregory be a fair comparison, or is that off track? Fair comparison to who? What was I talking about when you said that? Are you talking? Because I can think of a couple things. Are you talking about would Randy Gregory be a fair comparison to Sam Williams and his reputation? Is that what you're asking? Because that's the first thing that pops into my mind. Let me know if that's what you're asking me about, and then I'll answer this question. Chris said at Keystone, yeah, we draft, develop, and let our guys leave. Oh no. We like to develop players for the rest of the league. So here's what I'll say to that. So there's a story that has yet to be written. And the reason why it has yet to be written is because I interviewed a couple of people and then things started happening that made some of their quotes irrelevant. And now I don't even know how I'm going to put this story together. But essentially, Coach Brandon Tucker, he's a defensive line coach that operates out of the Plano, Frisco area, which is here near Dallas. For those who don't know where Plano is. But he coaches both Osa and Chauncey and some other players in the league. And he had an event recently. Hold on, give me a second. So he actually coaches defensive linemen of all ages. And when I say all ages, I mean all ages. I went to one of his practices. There was a kid there who was 7 years old. And as a coach, he does not pull punches. He was trying to teach them like some pass rushing footwork, right? And he pulls the 7-year-old kid to the side and he gets down on one knee and he looks at this kid and he's like, "Son, do you know what 5 yards is?" And I'm just watching this kid look at him like, what the hell is 5 yards? And so this 7-year-old kid naturally did not know what 5 yards was, but he learned that footwork that night, though. He did. So he teaches little kids, he teaches high schoolers, and he recently had a pass rush school event for high schoolers, but it kind of overlapped with some of the pre-combine work that he was doing with some of his college clients. And when he has events like that, some of his pro clients come out. That's actually how I met Osa for the very first time. I went to his pass rush school event last year. Osa happened to be there. This year, Neville Gallimore was there. But anyway, I say all that to say this year, because of the potential moves that the Cowboys might make, I talked to both Coach Brandon Tucker and his, why am I forgetting this man's title right now? His program director, Derek Irving, about both the program and about Chauncey and about Osa. And there were a couple of things interesting about that conversation. One was that neither one of them expected Chauncey to not be a Cowboy. They both expected Osa to not be a Cowboy. like Coach Tucker, they call him B Tuck for short. B Tuck was like, they don't pay their interior guys. They're not gonna pay him. And he deserves to get it back. He's gonna get it somewhere, but yeah, no, Osa's pretty much gone. Like he said it so matter of factly, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him since Osa got the deal. But I'm really curious as to how he feels about it. I cannot wait to hear what he has to say the next time I get to talk to him. But they talked a lot about Chauncey, and this relates to what you said, Chris, about drafting, developing, letting our guys leave. The reason why they talked about Chauncey so much was because like this conversation happened at a time when there were still questions about what would happen with Osa's contract, right? So I was really trying to get some quotes from them about Osa and his work ethic, because if y'all have never seen Osa Odigizua practice, it is a sight to behold, like for real. Like watching Cowboys practices, like there were times I would literally go closer to where the D line was practicing for two reasons. One, because if you get close enough, you can hear what they're saying. And sometimes just the stuff they said was insightful. But two, watching Osa practice and watching the difference in how he approached his reps compared to how other players approach their reps, it's just like, if you appreciate good athletes, if you appreciate athletes with a good work ethic who take their roles seriously and who not only don't take plays off, but don't take reps off, like he's a fun guy to watch. Like you understand why he's so impactful on the field, because when it comes to play how you practice, oh my God, he's a poster child for that. But anyway, both B Tuck and Derek Irving, they could not stop talking about the growth of Chauncey Golston. And even though I was asking about Osa, they were like, well, really, we feel like Chauncey has gained the most from working with us, because when he first came and started working with us, he needed a lot of work, but he's put in the work. He's gotten so much better. He's grown. You know, he's become a really impactful guy on the D line. Yada yada. Like they had such an appreciation for his growth and development and his work ethic and just his capacity to improve. Because you got to think, they've worked with all kinds of people. They've seen people come to them with goals and abandon those goals before they put in the work, right? So they know what it looks like when a player has when a player has room for growth, when a player has the ability to make a name for themselves in the league. And the way they talk about Chauncey, you could tell that they look at Chauncey as one of those people. And so that was one of the things that I thought about when I found out that Chauncey was leaving. I'm just like, this is someone who has grown during his time with the Cowboys, who was drafted by the Cowboys, who's one of the people who, like, when it comes to, we like our guys, we draft and develop, yada, yada, yada. Like, if you Google those quotes, Chauncey Golston's picture could be right next to those quotes in Google. He should have been the poster child for those aspects of the Dallas Cowboys philosophy. And instead they let him go for whatever reason. And especially considering the fact that the coaches that he was working with that helped him make that progress are like right here in the area on top of all that. So, you know, you're going to continue seeing improvement and contributions for him. It just, nothing about that situation makes sense. Except, of course, for the possibility that he just wanted to play D end and be somewhere where they would consistently play him at D end. And maybe he didn't see the Cowboys as being that place. So, yeah, I say all that to say, Chris, yeah, we're definitely here on that. Chris Glover has clarified. Yes, he's talking about Sam Williams. So, comparing Sam Williams to Randy Gregory, yeah, I could see some parallels there. It's not exactly the same situation. Randy Gregory almost exclusively got in trouble for weed, which we later learned. And I don't know the status of this lawsuit, but he ended up filing a lawsuit against, I don't remember if it was against the Broncos or against the NFL. But it was a lawsuit related to the fact that he was prescribed legal medicinal marijuana, but was still penalized financially by the league for taking it and for it being in his system. Which, if you've never seen the list of banned substances by the NFL, not only is the list itself like 6 pages long, it includes a lot of legal medications. And essentially, even if you're prescribed something, there's a process that you have to go through with the league in order to get permission to take it. So there can be a medical professional who says, you know what, I've evaluated you. I think you need this in order to feel better. I think you need this in order to properly function as a human being. And the NFL can be like, yeah, I know that doctor, I know that psychiatrist said you need that, but you don't get to take it until we say you get to take it if you want to keep your job, right? Which is kind of fucked up to me, but that's something that the NFLPA will have to work out and work on. But so Randy Gregory got in trouble almost exclusively for that. It was something that he did regularly, that he made clear was a habit he did not want to change. So I would say that they are similar in the sense that they are both players who became known for negative headlines and who fans, both of the team and of the sport, kind of boiled down to those negative headlines and didn't necessarily look for other things until later. So there are a lot of people who, when Randy Gregory ended up leaving the Cowboys, they didn't like that. They weren't fans of that whole situation because they saw Randy Gregory as someone who could contribute to the team. And so I think Sam will eventually become that type of person where if he does end up leaving, he'll be one of those people that the fans will miss, and they'll realize, like, damn, we spent way too much time worried about these negative headlines and not appreciating this person for what they brought to the field. So yeah, I could see that. I think Sam needs a little bit more time to let his story play out to see just how similar those paths are, right? Because right now, I can't imagine people putting him in the same category as Randy Gregory, but I think he was on that trajectory. You know, like there were so many people who were looking forward to what he was going to do in 2024. So assuming that his trajectory stays the same, which honestly, when I come across a player who's like, yeah, I'm taking my recovery period to also work on body recomp, I'm like as a personal trainer, I'm like, yes, that is exactly what you should be doing. That is such a responsible way to handle your recovery. Like that shit makes me smile. Like as a personal trainer, as a former coach of a sports team, that shit makes me smile. Right. So I'm like, dope. Sam is making good decisions. So yeah, if he keeps making those good decisions, if he keeps examining what he can work on now in order to make him a better player once he's recovered, absolutely. I could see him making those kinds of contributions.